What's up, guys? Part-Time Gamer Dad here, and today I'm giving you my official predictions for AEW WrestleDream. It's the Thursday before WrestleDream, a little earlier than I typically do predictions, but I'm taking my wife on our anniversary getaway to the mountains tomorrow, so need to do this now. So let's get into the predictions. Kicking us off, let's talk about a match involving a man who was involved in a very controversial match at the last pay-per-view for AEW, Hangman Page, as he takes on Switchblade Jay White. Since the match, since the victory over Swerve Strickland, Hangman Page has kind of been in a little bit of limbo in terms of coming off of a really hot feud that took course over a long period of time. Jay White has just returned to kind of have a face turn, if you will, to a degree, and take on Hangman Page, who's associated with the Elite, who's definitely cemented himself as a heel. And at this point, I think that Hangman Page having that huge win over Swerve Strickland, you don't want to diminish that. But I also think if there's somebody who can eat a pin and at the sake of kind of elevating another star to that main event level status, it is Hangman Page. So knowing all that, I would say Jay White is going to win. It's kind of like my dark horse pick of WrestleDream. Well, I've got a few that might be controversial, but I think Jay White hits a switchblade, walks away with the win. I do not think Swerve Strickland gets involved with Hangman Page. I think that feud is pretty solidly done at this point. They could always pick it up down the road. They've done that multiple times with that feud, but I think in terms of where they are right now, Hangman Page is on a different course, and it's to kind of help Jay White become the next main event level player, at least an upper mid-carder. So I have Jay White going over, and they're about at WrestleDream. Next up, Darby Allin versus Brody King. Now, this match is interesting because, you know, Darby Allin was originally supposed to wrestle Bryan Danielson at WrestleDream. That's what all the reports were saying. He had that title shot in his back pocket, and then Jon Moxley won it. So Darby Allin's kind of been floating around ever since that. But I think he gets the win here. They definitely have some plans for him. I don't know if he's still the pick to win the AEW World Heavyweight Championship off of Bryan Danielson. But I do think that Tony Khan and AEW see him as, a pillar of AEW, and that he is somebody they want to continue to build the company around, build the future of the main event scene around. So I would say Darby Allin does walk away with the win, but not before he gets thrown around like a rag doll and makes Brody King look like a star. Next up, a 2 out of 3 falls match. Hologram, Tony Khan's childhood creation, against the Beast Mortos. This is the easiest pick all show. Hologram wins 2-1. I mean, he might even win 2-0. There's just no way that Hologram loses, especially in his pay-per-view debut. I don't know what the ceiling is for Hologram, but he's talented. It's weird. Do you guys remember, the character whose name I can't say, but was in TNA, was a video game creation, and then became an actual wrestler? He reminds me of that guy. He reminds me of who ended up becoming known as Manic in TNA, Impact Wrestling. And so I think there's a ceiling for him. I don't think it's the world title, but maybe mid-card. And I love the Beast Mortos. I think he's a really fun character, really talented wrestler. So I like to see more from him over time. But honestly, Hologram, like this, there's no doubt in my mind he wins. If the Beast wins, oh my gosh, that would be huge. What a path that would set him off on. But very similarly, I mean, what's his ceiling? Like, it's definitely not, being a world champion in the future. So Hologram, easiest pick for me of the whole night. Also, I know there's a line. It is like 8 o'clock in the morning when I'm filming this, because I'm filming this before work, because I want to get the predictions out, because I care about you guys, because I love you. Next up is Mark Briscoe defending the Ring of Honor world title against Chris Jericho, as Jericho seeks out Nueve, which is the 9th world title in his career. I think you invoke the name of Jay Briscoe, Chris, and it's just not going to end well. I think by doing that, we've already got our answer. Mark Briscoe walks away with the win. Also, what does Jericho do for ROH? What does he do by winning the world title? I think Mark Briscoe is the heart and soul of ROH. Jericho's won the ROH title before. He doesn't need to win it again. It's on his resume as being an ROH world champion. And with the storyline, I don't think it serves anyone outside of Chris Jericho for him to win the world title. That's not good for the brand of ROH. It doesn't do anything AEW-wise one way or another. And I think also just like the way the storyline has progressed, it makes sense for Mark Briscoe to win. So also feeling very confident on this one. I think the majority of these matches are actually pretty, I don't want to say predictable, but it's the kind of the Tony Khan formula, right? Like you can kind of see it coming from a mile away who's going to win in most cases. So I would say based on everything we've seen and knowing Tony Khan, Mark Briscoe retains the ROH World title. Okay, so one that's a little harder to predict, ironically, right after I said that, the Young Bucks defend the AEW Tag Team Championships against Private Party. Private Party's kind of come back like a ball of fire, and they're going after the Young Bucks, who I think, honestly, I used to be a big Young Buck fan, especially back in the Bullet Club days, New Japan days. I was even a Generation Me fan back in the late 2000s, early 2010s with them inside of TNA. I feel like they've kind of lost some of their appeal. I feel like they've just kind of become something that's not as entertaining to watch. From a wrestling perspective, it's fine, but from a character perspective, it's just kind of the same old. The Elite and the heat that the Elite had whenever Okada and Jack Perry joined them, it's just not the same as it was. So I would love to see them drop the titles to Private Party. This is probably one of my most least confident matches in terms of predictions. I'm going to say that the Young Bucks retain for now, but I wouldn't be surprised if Private Party wins, and I'm actually kind of hoping Private Party wins. I went to an AEW show the month before the world shut down, so this is February 2020. Moxley had just won the World Championship the Sunday before, and Private Party was like the final dark match. And Private Party is just such a fun team to watch. They're very athletic, very energetic, and just really oozing with charisma. So I would love to see them win the tag team titles and have the Young Bucks move on to something else. Or honestly, like Young Bucks could just disappear for a while. That'd be great. But I think we will see the Young Bucks retain this time. Next up, we have Jack Perry defending the TNT title against Shabata. And again, this kind of feels easy. Nothing to take away from Shabata. Shabata is an incredible performer, incredible wrestler. He is hard as nails, man. If you look into the backstory of Shabata and his career and some of the things that happened to him and how he probably shouldn't be wrestling anymore, but he still is, and he's a monster, you would know that Shabata is the man. But given what we know about kind of how Tony Khan works and always, having some kind of focus towards where he wants that title reign to end, I just don't see Jack Perry losing it to Shabata. I think he's probably going to lose to Daniel Garcia. Daniel Garcia just re-signed with AEW, and I believe if he did that, it's because he's going to be the guy to take over the TNT title from scapegoat Jack Perry. So, all that being said, based on a totally different person, not even involved in this feud, I think that Jack Perry will go over Shabata. And also Shabata's kind of at this point in his career, especially in AEW, where he just eats pins. Or he could take losses, and he's fine. He's still Shabata. So, and Jack Perry, I think at this juncture, still kind of needs a little bit of solidification and being a true defining champion as a TNT title holder. So I have Jack Perry going over. Next up, AEW Women's Championship. Mariah May defends against Willow Nightingale. I think, again, this is a new title reign that just started not that long ago. And it was the right title change of Mariah May winning that title off of Toni Storm. I predicted that at the time. And there's kind of a bigger story at play here. Mariah May has her friend Mina, who is currently tagging with Toni Storm in Japan. And so I think that will play into, if not this match or the aftermath of this match, into upcoming storylines. And I think in order to make that storyline relevant, you still want to have the women's championship involved so that Toni Storm can come back and maybe challenge for her, maybe Mina and Mariah wrestle again. I don't know, but I think that the women's title is still involved. So knowing all that, and again, the challengers for this show are really great. So not taking anything away from Willow, but I see Mariah May continuing her women's world title run. And maybe like when we get closer to maybe like Full Gear or World's End, maybe at that point we'll see her drop the title back to Toni Storm, to Mina, or somebody else entirely. But I still think that feud, probably at Full Gear, is coming up. Maybe the Toni Mariah rematch. So I have Mariah retaining here. In what will probably be the most fun, the most dynamic match of the night, we have Will Osprey defending his international championship against Ricochet, one of his longest time rivals, and then Takeshita. This one's kind of hard to decide because, I mean, like, it's a triple threat. So you could have Osprey lose with Ricochet or Takeshita taking the pin and the other guy winning the title. It's also just as easily to say that Osprey is the man and they want to keep him strong. I don't see him going to the AEW World Championship picture anytime soon. So, like, what could he do that would make it, you know, viable for him to lose the title? Or does he just continue to run with the international championship? I think based on a lot of the things we've seen as of late, I think Takeshita is going to win the title. I think he's going to pin Ricochet. I think he's going to win the title. This is maybe the hardest one to call because you have a lot of variables in here. Osprey just left the Don Callis family. So you could have Don Callis, you know, screw him out of the title, Osprey. Kyle Fletcher is a friend of Osprey. So does he inadvertently cost Osprey the title and then those two feud? Like, that would be huge for Kyle Fletcher because him and Osprey are real life really good friends, if not best friends. Ricochet just debuted with the company the last pay-per-view, so he could, you know, to really submit him on the map, do you give him the title? And then Osprey is Osprey, so there's a lot of reason for him to retain. But my heart and my gut say Takeshita, so that's the route I'm going to go. And also, I think Takeshita has put in some great work over the last year or two, and it's about high time to give him a title. I really want to see him go after the Continental title with Okada. But you know what? If he could beat Osprey and be the second guy in AEW to pin him after Swerve, then I think that would be really telling. And if not, then he beats Ricochet. And you know what? For him just to win the title in general, I think would be a real stamp of approval from the business. All right. Main event time, AEW World Championship. Bryan Danielson defending against his former faction, his former running mate, and Jon Moxley. Blackpool Combat Club turning on Bryan Danielson was weird, but I think necessary. And there's somebody pulling the strings in the background. Is it Shane McMahon? Is it somebody else? Is Wheeler Yuta, after having aligned himself with Bryan Danielson, going to turn on Bryan Danielson? To me, that feels like the most likely outcome because it's the lamest. But I would love to see Shane McMahon step in. I think, though, that everything's building up to Jon Moxley winning the AEW World Championship away from Bryan Danielson. I think that's why Jon Moxley won the title match from Darby Allin last month. And I think that it's going to allow Bryan Danielson to go away for a bit and then come back maybe at Revolution and go after Blackpool Combat Club properly, go after Jon Moxley and have a rematch down the road. Just because he's going to be done with his full-time career doesn't mean that he's done fully, right? So I think that this could be a really exciting opportunity. And now, people complain about Jon Moxley's always AEW World Champion, but his character here is really, really interesting. And I think it's a new Jon Moxley. It's Jon Moxley that could breathe a little bit of new life into the main event scene. And obviously there's a lot of new, like Marina Shafir, and is Roderick Strong pulling the strings in the background? Who knows? But it leaves a lot of questions out there around, like, how is this all going to play out? If Shane McMahon shows up and helps Jon Moxley win, I think we are entering into the most interesting time period of AEW since its inception. And that's what I'm hoping for, because AEW has not been as entertaining or as intriguing as of late for me personally. That would kind of breathe a new life in there. It would kind of feel like a takeover in a way, which I think AEW could benefit from. So I've got Jon Moxley winning. Not confident in that one at all, but I think that is basically where Tony Khan is telling us the story is going, whether that is at WrestleDream or Full Gear. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching the video. Like I say in every video, make sure you like the video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed. If you like wrestling, video games, or the occasional parent humor, you're in the right place. And then also make sure you comment down below your picks for AEW WrestleDream, and I will see you very soon.